New videos every day.
For all you students and grad students out there who maybe have a big research paper coming up or any kind of large research project, I'm Justine Tal Goldberg. I'm owner of Writebynight, a writer service and writing center with headquarters in Austin, Texas, serving Florida's Treasure Coast and clients remotely nationwide. And today I'd like to talk to you about some tips for approaching and carrying out your research projects. So research papers, or really any kind of research project, can be extremely overwhelming. It's a matter of integrating your original thoughts with other people's thoughts, people who have come before you and written about the same topic. So what we're going to look at today is the 3 steps in producing a research paper or a research project. And those steps include, of course, the research, the analysis, and the integration. So not surprisingly, the first step in any research project is going to be research. The key here is organization, and organization is going to be key for each of these steps that I'm going to talk about today. You're going to want to carry that organization through the entire process. So basically, to start off, before you even read a word on whatever topic you're writing about or reporting about, you're going to want to develop an organizational system. So that can be really anything that's going to work for you. I know that's very general. It's a little bit broad, but just kind of step back and think about how you like to work and what usually works best for you. So a good example of an organizational system is perhaps index cards. Very simple. You can color code them so that when you need to retrieve the information later, you'll be able to do so easily. You could even use various Word documents with very clear labels, very clear file names. Again, the key here is to be able to find that information later on when you need it. Also within this research stage, and this is when you start to do a little bit of reading and you actually begin with your research, you're going to want to take copious notes as you go through. Make sure that you're writing everything down. If it's easier for you to, maybe you find a piece of material that you feel like is going to be very helpful, make a photocopy, highlight, underline, take notes in the margins. That way you will have that information in front of you and you won't have to rely on your memory later on, which can very often be unreliable. Also make sure when you're taking notes on your research that you're being very careful to write down clearly and completely the publication information. You're going to need that later on when you're putting together your works cited list. So when you've completed your research, the next thing you're going to do is move to the analysis stage. And this is where you're looking at the information that you've compiled and figuring out how it fits in with your thesis statement, right? What is the original statement that you're making about this topic, and how can you use the research that you've done in order to support that thesis statement? So the best tip that I can give you in the analysis stage is to make sure that you're just being very careful to weed out the information that does not relate. A very common misstep for students when they're working on research papers is that they will feel like, I've done all this research, I've spent all this time compiling the information, I have to include everything. It's not true. What you have to include is the material that directly relates, that is going to help you make your point in the most clear, concise way possible. So weed out that information. Don't just decide to include something simply because you want another citation. You know, you want to say, I read this book. You want your professor to know that you did the work. If the paper is on point, your professor will know that you did the work. So the third and final stage of any research paper, or any piece of writing for that matter, is of course the writing itself. And this is probably the piece that you all out there are the most concerned about, because writing is time consuming and it can be intimidating. So we're all interested in how to do it better and make the process go more smoothly. So tip number 1 for when you are writing your research paper, and this is the part where the integration is coming in, and all of that research and analysis that you did, all that preparatory work is now going to benefit you in the writing stage. So you're definitely going to want to sit down at your computer, or if you prefer to write longhand, that's okay too, and just do what I like to call word vomit. You just sit down and write whatever comes to mind. Just, don't hold yourself up with, no, that's not the best way to say that. The phrasing is weird. I don't want to use that word. Just write whatever is coming into your head about the topic. You always have revision at your disposal. There's always going to be the opportunity for you to go back into that document and fix anything you don't like. So it's going to be to your advantage to just sit down and get all your ideas on paper. That way you'll have the freedom to work with all of those ideas later. Speaking of coming back and revisiting the work later, let's talk about planning in the writing process and in the entire process of a research paper. So I know you college students and graduate students out there are not going to like this, and you probably won't even do it, but I'm going to tell you anyway. Start early. If you can, do your very, very best to start early. If you save a humongous project, any project, a research paper, anything, to the very last minute, you're going to be rushed and you're not going to have the time to do the word vomit and then come back and perfect the prose later. Something else that giving yourself more time will do is it will allow you to, first of all, get all of that information, all of your thoughts out on the page, then you will have time to go back to the information, take a look at it, read it over, see what you want to fix up, see what you want to move around. It will also give you the time to have somebody else look at your work, and that is very, very important. You can be very, very close to a project, almost too close to it, and you stop kind of seeing it objectively. So by putting it into somebody else's hands, they bring a fresh perspective to the paper and the project that you're working on. And this person could be anybody really, whoever you are comfortable with. It could be a friend, a colleague, a professor. You could even visit the writing center at your school or your local writing center like Writebynight. And this final tip applies to all three stages of the process, so the research, the analysis, and the writing. You always want to make sure that your ideas are taking center stage. It can be attractive in a research paper to sort of latch on to an idea that somebody else before you has already worked through. You don't want to do that. This is your paper, your name is going to be on it. You are making an argument, right? You're making an original statement about whatever topic you are working with. And again, you're using the research as support, not as a crutch. So you're just going to want to make sure as you're researching, as you're analyzing, and as you're writing, that you're always taking a step back and thinking to yourself, what original about this can I say? What thoughts can I contribute? Can I add on to somebody else's thoughts, to somebody else's research? What of this paper is coming from me? And that's what you want to be front and center in your paper. So remember, organization is key, and the final point that I want to stress is that you should always be working with the topic that you are passionate about. I can't tell you how important this is. If you are stuck with a research paper topic, maybe it was assigned to you and maybe you chose it. Who knows how it happened? But if you're stuck with a subject that you just hate, that you don't care about, that just bores you to tears, you're gonna have a lot of resistance for working on this project at all. So be sure that before you even start the research, before you get into the analysis, and certainly before you start writing, you have chosen a topic that you can really get excited about, and in that way, you might just get something out of this process. In a future video, I'll give you some tips on how to write a successful, compelling thesis statement. And in another video, I'll give you 10 study tips to make you a straight A student. Today, folks, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you'd like more information about me or Writebynight, please visit www.writebynight.net. And while you're here, please leave a comment, rate the video, and subscribe to the channel.
If you liked this video, we have hundreds of more alternative videos ranging from sexual health to psychology to mind control. So if you liked it, go ahead and click on me to enter the Psychetruth channel.